Well, well, well. Good morning, everyone. It's so good to be with those of you that we can see, and also to be with those of you we can't see but know are here with us too. Welcome to those of you in this room for the first time in 18 months. Each of us represents so many others that we can see in the spaces we hold between us, in those spaces that were filled last on March the 8th, 2020. We gather masked and distanced today, but toward the hope that time will come when we can safely congregate in safer and more natural ways. And in the meantime, we warm these spaces between us with eyes that meet one another in welcome. Wherever we are in this moment, whether we're here in our three-dimensional expression or we're joining the digital community, together we are spiritual seekers. A community gathered here in this graced space of Southminster Steinhauer United Church in South Edmonton, and a community joined and scattered across many kilometers, many habitats, many landscapes. It's good to be with one another, to pray, to reflect, to sing, to begin a new week together in the thick and thin of life, in the trouble and beauty of life, in the burden and the blessing of our histories, of our future, in the fragility and strength of this present moment. On this second Sunday in September, we are continuing our series on Windows to Wonder. Today we're pondering the everyday sacrament of seeds. Along with my teammate Chris, we welcome Pam's leadership at the piano, Janet's leadership at the cello, Jeff and Janice leading us in song, Andrea and Dara tending to our AV needs, and Jakob and May behind the scenes hosting us and holding us in this circle with one another. So as we gather, wherever we are in this space, or if you're comfortably seated in your living room in your pajamas with your cup of coffee, wherever you are in this moment, I invite us to pause with each other, to honor the land where we are, where we've all come to from different places and various reasons, from different generations, from various parts of the world, and we've come to the place where we are, and we call it home. And we acknowledge its first peoples, the first to learn the wisdom of the land where we live, the first to discover its medicines, the first to celebrate the cycles and the seasons with ceremony and protocol. And we also pause to recognize the responsibility that rests with us, we who are settlers, who need to listen and learn, seek truth, and find right relationship. So may this time we share with each other unite us in wonder, connect us with care, renew our search for what is faithful and true as we open to the everyday sacraments, the ones that deepen our capacity to seek light, reflect light, celebrate the unique light that shines in each of us, and the oneness that is deep in our hearts.
Deep in our hearts there is a common vision. Deep in our hearts there is a common song. a common purpose. Deep in our hearts there is a common goal. Deep in our hearts there is a sacred message. Justice and peace in harmony. Deep in our hearts there is a common longing. Deep in our hearts there is a common theme. Deep in our hearts there is a common current flowing to freedom like a stream. Deep in our hearts there is a common calling. Deep in our hearts there is a common voice. Deep in our hearts there is a common spirit telling creation that we are one.
We are one community, whether we're together physically or whether we're together digitally. It's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget that in a world of Zoom calls and seeing each other in little black boxes. It's hard to forget that we're one. It's hard to remember that we're one community. Just as a few people were coming into our space today, I had the chance to speak to them about their candles. Some of you shared with me that you've been lighting your candle each and every week at home. And this would in fact be the first week you haven't lit your candle because you're here in this room. For those of you at home that light your candle each time you gather with us, it's been a way for us to remember that we are one community. Fire is like that. Fire can be divided into hundreds of thousands of candles. But light is one light. The flame is just one representation of that one great light, of that burning sun at the center of our solar system, or the light that beats in our hearts that keeps us connected with our loved ones or connected with each other as a community. So this lighting of the candle we've never taken lightly. We've always thought, this is a beautiful time. And so I invite you into it once again, to be present for this community candle to be lit this morning, but to also be present to it in your own place. To light the candle, remembering that we are one. We are connected by more than physical space. That whether we're hopeful or whether we have our doubts about how we will get through this fourth wave and what's beyond it, this candle reminds us that community, one community, can see us through. Not just SSUC, but the one community of our neighborhoods, of our cities, of our nations, and of our planet. So stare into this light whenever you need that reminder. Being one is a strength. In all our diversity, we're together. We have a story for the Time for All Ages today. Would you expect anything different? Our Time for All Ages story introduces us to this topic of this next everyday wonder, this wisdom of the ordinary. Today, talking about seeds. And the story today is called The Everything Seed, a story of beginnings. It's by Carol Martignaco, easy for me to say. Martignaco, maybe. Illustrated by Joy Troyer. I know that someone out there will know how to say Carol's name and will help me for next time. Have you ever watched a seed grow? Have you ever noticed how it begins so small, so still, so quiet, like a gift wanting to be opened? And how slowly it wakes up, begins to unfold, growing into something larger and larger and larger. Then you know that whatever comes from a seed usually ends up looking very little like the seed it came from. Which is also true of the very first seed. Once long ago, way back before the beginning, so long ago there was no such thing as time, because there was no one there to count it. Everything was a huge, deep, mysterious place, like something waiting to happen. No stars, no sun or moon. There was no place like earth, not a drop of water or a single tree or rock or flower, and no living beings anywhere. But in that deep waiting space was hidden the tiniest point of something no bigger than a seed. It was not a flower seed. It was not an elm tree seed. It was not a seed of corn, although all those things were included in the seed. You might call it an everything seed, because that is what it became. No one knows where that first seed that wasn't really a seed came from, or how it was planted, or how it knew, in the way that only seeds seem to know, how long to wait for just the right moment to sprout and grow. But all at once, this tiny seed, cradled and nourished in the rich soil of space, woke up, broke open, and began to unfold. Unfolding. Unfolding. And blossoming forth into an enormous blazing ball of bright light, like a great-grandmother's son. And the universe was born. Out fluttered the galaxies like a storm of snowflakes, swirling and gathering into the brightest, most blindingly beautiful cloud of stars. And out of those star clouds whirled our very own star, the one we call the sun. And eventually, our Earth, and the moon, and all the round spinning planets we have learned how to name. And this is the secret of that tiny seed. You and I were there in the very beginning. Just as the idea for each leaf on a big oak tree lies hidden inside an acorn, we were all there. With all the stars and planets, all the rocks and oceans, plants and animals and people, everything that is now, ever was, or ever will be, was inside that first tiny seed. So whenever you hold a seed in your hand and wonder what it could become, imagine how you and all that is here once came from the tiniest speck of an everything seed, before it sprouted, before it exploded, before it grew long, long ago in the way back beginning of time. Now, if this were an ordinary story, it would end right here. But this story of the universe keeps unfolding. What once began in a blazing blossom of light continues every day. New stars sprout open in the deep soil of space. New plants and animals appear on the earth. Seeds of many kinds are scattered everywhere to help us remember. And new people are born every day with the spark of that first light still alive and burning deep inside them, waiting, like the everything seed, to shine in ways that are yet to be known.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
We have many stories in our tradition about seeds. Here's two of them that come from the earliest gospel we have in the collection we find in the Christian scriptures, from the Gospel of Mark in the 4th chapter. Jesus told them this story. The kingdom we seek is if someone scatters seed on the ground, then goes to sleep, and rises night after day and day after night, and the seed sprouts and grows. But the one who planted it doesn't know how it happened. The earth produces of itself first the stalk, then the head, then the full grain. And when the grain is ripe, the farmer goes in with a sickle because the harvest has come. Jesus also said, With what will we compare the beloved kingdom? Or what parable, metaphor, analogy will we use for it? It's like a mustard seed. When sown into the ground, it's the smallest of all the seeds on earth. Yet when it's sown, it grows up and becomes the greatest of all shrubs and puts forth large branches. So the birds of the air can make nests in its shade. May we ponder this wisdom that comes to us from the first century.
This is a time we honor and name those who gather.
Lately, I've been turning left at Sunflower Corner in our village. It's my last turn on my way home. We're all, in this part of the world, rounding the corner from summer into autumn. And the bright faces of the sunflowers greet us. Last weekend, here in this space, as we celebrated the marriage of Sam and Teresa, we were blessed again and again to be in the beautiful company of sunflowers. And so, these words of Mary Oliver have been keeping me company all week. Come with me into the field of sunflowers. Their faces are burnished discs, their dry spines creak like ship masts, their green leaves, so heavy and many, fill all day with the sticky sugars of the sun. Come with me to visit the sunflowers. They are shy and want to be friends. They have wonderful stories of when they were young, the important weather, the wandering crows. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. Their bright faces, which follow the sun, will listen. And all those rows of seeds, each one a new life. Hope for a deeper acquaintance, each of them, though it stands in a crowd of many like a separate universe, is lonely. The long work of turning their lives into a celebration is not easy. Come, let us talk to those modest faces, the simple garments of leaves, the coarse roots in the earth, so uprightly burning. As we ponder the wisdom of those sunflowers that grace us with their strength and their beauty, let's remember their journey. the wonder of something so small, so ordinary, so common, so understated as a seed wasn't lost on the wisdom of the Jesus tradition. Seeds star in some of the most memorable stories of Jesus of Nazareth. Thanks to Vincent van Gogh, we all know the parable of the sower, the one we didn't read today that came before those other two stories in Mark's gospel. The image of that field, the image of the setting sun, this one who's broadcasting seed so extravagantly, with a hint of harvest, reminding us of that first century story of the seed meeting such different fates depending on the soil conditions. Some of the seed fed the birds when it failed to germinate on a well-packed path. Some of the seed failed to establish good roots because it was planted on rocky ground. Some of the seed lost out to weeds, and then some of the seed germinated in good soil and yielded a bumper crop. That story encourages its listeners then and now to just keep seeding faithfully and generously, because the good we plant, wherever we plant it, is not lost. And some of those seeds will surpass our wildest hopes, and their harvest will never be seen by us. That first century storyteller of Mark's gospel then goes on to give us two more stories of seeds. The story where Jesus compares the beloved community of radical equality to a community that grows quietly, persistently, without flash and dash, hidden underground like a seed. Something plain and drab looking, like a seed that everyone forgets about, with all of its potential disguised. But left to be what it can be, it will transform itself completely into fruit or flower. And then if we still fail to find the wonder, if we still miss the amazing grace in this tiny thing, Mark's Jesus gives us one more image. A very small seed, a mustard seed that's intentionally planted. In first century Mediterranean society, everyone knew that the mustard seed was the dandelion of the Middle East. It's a weed. Once it's sown, it's almost impossible to get rid of. It's an infiltrator, an invasive weed that tends to take over. What first century farmer, what 21st century farmer is going to intentionally plant weeds? So perhaps this third startling story, this third image will make it impossible for the listeners ever to forget the power of a seed. Jesus shocks his students with this image of a garden overrun by the smallest seeds that were sown. How can we miss the sacrament of the seed? Maybe we can forget about that extravagant farmer who's broadcasting seed willy-nilly. Maybe we can forget about the seed that somebody spilled that quietly went about its business of being seed. But who can forget a field of weeds that came from a simple, small, underestimated, overlooked seed? The power of this tiny, ordinary, everyday sacrament, this everything seed that we come from, This tiny seed of hidden beginnings, hidden in darkness, hidden in a pandemic. Something which looks like nothing, its secret potential disguised, stardust seeding a universe. A seed in the womb emerging as a tiny human. A smooth, round seed that contains everything it needs to become an apple. Isn't every thought, every word, every action just like a seed? Holding the potential to help or to harm, to create or destroy, to nourish or poison, to build a world or destroy a world. Our spiritual tradition was seeded by a small group of Jewish peasants whose imaginations were ignited by Jesus of Nazareth. We are not the descendants of bureaucrats who fashioned assertions about him in the 4th century. We're not here because of what some monk nailed on a church door in the 16th century. We evolved from a disheartened community of peasants who became potentialists, who came to believe in a radical ethic of compassion, of inclusion, of equality, that they could plant a different world, a different social and economic and political community, despite all the evidence to the contrary. And there was nothing about the social order of their day to suggest that this was even a remote possibility. We have evolved from those who were inspired by a vision of being like a generous sower, broadcasting seed wildly, a trusting farmer, scattering seed, believing in its potential to sprout and grow while he slept, and somehow become the best of wheat in the fullness of time. We have evolved from a community that infiltrates divisiveness and fear and polarization and competition and consumption like a mustard seed, with gentle words, small kindnesses that are every bit as persistent and successful as weeds, choking out seeds of selfishness by living a radical love of life and of its source, and a love for neighbor and stranger and enemy. The poet rightly said, "The long work of turning our lives into a celebration isn't easy." The sunflowers insist on doing it against all odds. The long work of seeding a beloved community rooted in love of enemy is not easy. But some thought it possible. And we carry that seed. So let's keep sowing, just as we've been taught, and trust the best of seeds to do their quiet, amazing work.
in our way of tradition, we would speak prayers that can synthesize the teachings of the church. But because we are evolving, whenever we strengthen our intentions with one another, we are strengthening our resolve to live in the ways of wisdom and in the ways of our best and highest humanity. It's in that spirit that we share words of prayer with one another, reminders, strengtheners of our heart and our will to do what we can do. And so I invite us all to speak these words of intention. Perhaps you'll speak them out loud, perhaps you'll read along or listen to them being spoken, but let's allow them to enter our hearts in ways that might be meaningful to us. We open to sacred mystery, beyond our capacity to name, but within our experience to know. We celebrate the holy oneness to which we belong, our deep connection with Spirit, with each other, with earth and all life. We mourn our disruptions and losses, grieve the isolation that separates us from the presence we long for, and we seek to plant our words and actions in ways that grow goodness. May we give ourselves to seeding kindness, generosity, and equity, and so may our lives nurture that for which we pray. Amen. As we share a few invitations this morning, I first want to introduce you or reintroduce you to SSUC's board chair. Jakob Kellerman is going to speak to us, and for many of you, you've maybe just known his name as a name in the e-messenger, or you've heard words from the board with his name on them, but a chance now for you to hear from Jakob and for Jakob to speak to you. Thank you, Jakob.
A big crowd, but man, are we good looking. And it's good to see you all. On behalf of the board, it's my privilege to say welcome to this first service that we had since March in 2020. Like Nancy said, 18 months. It's a long, long time. So in March, the board decided that we are going to suspend our in-person services. And at the same time, the board formed a task group to look at all the risks associated with the building that we are in, and also develop protocols to help the users of our facilities. Now, fast forward to June, that's this year. The board decided that maybe it's time to start looking at opening up the church for in-person services. And this is it. So we decided that for September we're going to have 3 very cautious phased services like the one you're in today. And the board will obviously reevaluate that on September 21st, when we have our next board meeting. Now, because the pandemic keeps on changing the rules, we don't know what that decision is going to be. But we had a opinion survey done in June, And that indication that we got from our family was that we want to come back to in-person services. Of course, we will try to honor that, but we're also very cautious as far as the pandemic is concerned. So I have only two things to say. So that was the first thing, is welcome to everybody here today. The next thing is a big thank you. And when I start saying thank you, I want to start with our singers, musicians, and our technical team at the back, and our ministers that kept this circle alive for the last 18 months. I cannot express my gratitude to you people for offering your time to keep this going. Thank you very much. And I also need to thank you, the congregation of SSUC, the family here, that keeps us going, not only by your presence online and here today, but also with your financial support. That allows us to carry on with our community projects, which you task us to support, and also keep the lights on. Thank you very much for that support. And lastly, I need to thank our board and all the subcommittees that kept on working during this period. It's a privilege to be part of that team. Thank you very much. And we cannot hug you all, but consider yourself kissed. Thank you very much.
Jakob, great thanks goes to you as the chair of our board that has seen us through all of these months of the pandemic with difficult decisions to make and leadership that has been unswavering and very solid for us, and we thank you, Jakob. We have a chance to do something really special today at our first in-person gathering. Now, it's a bit of mixed emotions because we are grateful so much that we get to do this in person, but wish that we didn't have to do it at all, of course. We can spend a little bit of time today to share gratitude and celebrate Roz Shepherd. Roz soon takes her leave of us for Duncan, BC on Vancouver Island. And Roz has been such a kind and loving presence at SSUC for so many years, involved in the adult choir, involved in Silver Tones, at Tuesday Connection Women's Group, Sacred Circle dancing, and that's just the regular things. A beautiful and helpful presence anytime that we gather as a community. And so we don't say goodbye to Roz today. We say, welcome to the next chapter of your life, Roz. You will be with us online, I'm sure. You'll be with us in heart and in support, and we go with you in your travels with love and with friendship. And Nancy, on behalf of the whole congregation, has a gift. We hope that this gift will be a reminder for you of your SSUC family, that as you create a home for yourself in Duncan. And may you remember us well, Roz. May you keep connected to your lifelong friends here, as I know you will. And may our love and support go with you. Just a few quick other invitations. You know that yoga has been, weekly yoga has been such a wonderful program for us over many years, and we have the opportunity to announce that online yoga is resuming on the 22nd. Wednesdays, always at 7 o'clock, and they're going to begin in the fall online again as they concluded in the spring. They'll resume online, and you are welcome to join that online yoga class from the comfort of your home. It's gentle yoga. No experience is ever necessary, and you can contact the office for information of how to join that Zoom call. And like Jakob said, such gratitude for all the ways that you support SSUC. If you would like to contribute today, there are a number of ways on your screen that you can do that: by mail, by e-transfer, by visiting our website, by purchasing grocery cards, lots of different ways, and we thank you for all the ways that you support us. Oh, and I should say you could drop your envelope in the box in the foyer. I forgot that that's an option now. Thank you all for your support and your ongoing love and care for this community.
In a bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter there's a spring that waits to be, unrevealed until its season, at its heart a mystery. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, what it holds we've yet to see, unrevealed until its season, at its heart a mystery. In our end is our beginning, in our time infinity. In our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. In our death a transformation, in our love community, unrevealed until its season, at its heart a mystery.
With such gratitude to be together in this room with those of you who have gathered, with gratitude for you at home who support us all these many weeks. We go in the spirit of community and friendship, and we go in the hope that, like a seed, we all plant. We plant with our words and our actions, our lives and our living. And so as we extinguish our candle for another week, we go knowing that we, like the everything seed, continue to evolve. The light changes but does not leave. And so, for each of us, may this week be one of kindness and goodness. May it be one of health and wellness. May we go together as one people. Until next time, be well.